It's ATARI time. Any long-term viewers of the channel should recognise this. My ATARI 520 ST-FM. I bought this from eBay quite a while ago now, probably 4 or 5 years ago. Plugged it in and a cloud of smoke appeared from this general area here. That's where the power supply lives inside this machine. So my assumption is that that has exploded, but it just went on that shelf and it has sat there ever since, doing very little. We were talking about ATARI things over on the CRG Discord there last month, and yeah, we decided that every other system seems to have its themed month, so why not ATARI? And there's no point in delaying these things, so we decided it should be called Febtari. Yeah, a bit of a stretch, but everything has to have its themed month on YouTube, doesn't it? And so I'm starting this Febtari journey with my 520. Let's get it onto the bench, we'll get it apart, and try and figure out what exploded. Now, to say I know nothing about these would be a bit of an understatement. I'm better with my Amigas, but the old ATARI definitely does hold some level of nostalgia for me, because despite the fact that yes, I am a die-hard Amiga fan, my first experience with a 16-bit Wedge computer was one of these very systems. I had it on loan from my uncle for a couple of weeks and have fond memories of playing games on it before I did eventually get my Amiga. We have worked on one of these or something very similar in the past here on the channel. It was back in December of 2023. We did some work on an STE. This is just the ST-FM though, and other than the fact that a cloud of smoke escaped out of it and that it does obviously need a really good clean. Yeah, I don't remember it being this dirty, but it's surprising just how bad things get sitting on the shelf. Well, the other thing that needs a bit of attention is at the floppy drive here, this cover. I cannot explain how that ever happened. It came to me like this. Almost looks as if someone has jammed a screwdriver in there in some vain attempt to get this shroud out. No idea, but it is broken in that corner. The case itself is a little bit damaged. Won't be much we can do about that, but I wonder if we could 3D print a replacement for this bit. I'll have a look on Thingy first to see if there's any files for that. And you mightn't be able to see it on camera. In fact, I'm pretty sure you won't be able to. But up in there, there is something hanging from the top of the floppy drive, blocking the entrance to it. So yeah, the floppy drive itself needs a bit of a service. Everything looks fine on the back, other than the RF port is a bit rusty, but we'll not be using that. Serial port, printer, external hard disk. I do have something coming to build that we can plug in there, assuming that we can get this working. External floppy drive, monitor port. I need to go find my cable for that. Power switch on the machine because the power supply lives in here, on a reset switch. On this side we have every ATARI fan's excuse for why this machine is better than an Amiga. We have got 2 MIDI ports and this cartridge slot. That was just a joke. And the only thing missing is the joystick ports. Where do they plug in? Well, they're hiding under here, just in there, underneath the front right of the keyboard. And there is this cutout at the front of the case here, which lets the cables come out. I think that's one of those things though that you would say is a nice idea on paper. In practice, if you need to swap out your mouse for, say, a second joystick, it does mean lifting the machine up, unplugging that, and then wrestling with this, trying to plug in the joystick again. Meanwhile, as you're doing that, you're potentially putting stress on anything that is plugged into the back here. But look, that is enough waffling. We need to get in here. Various screws on the bottom of it, and if memory serves, it is all the ones in the more square looking holes. You need to take those out, and that should allow the top cover to lift off. And we're in. And I'll say something for it. It is one sturdy machine. Weighs an absolute ton as well because of the internal power supply. So I'm going to continue stripping everything down. There's a raft of screws holding on that shield. A shield there, just above where the floppy drive connects. Screws right around the perimeter of the motherboard. These tabs here are holding the shielding on. I want to get it all apart, get the board out, get that power supply out to inspect it. Yeah, give me 5 minutes, then we'll be back. But here's the thing though, I don't see any evidence on the board or on this PSU from where that smoke escaped. It definitely let out a cloud of smoke. I am definitely remembering that right, because it was the first time it had ever happened to me. That's how long I've had this. What I was expecting to find when we opened this up was perhaps one of these here had cracked and exploded. I think that's a reefer cap, and in fact only is the one on it, but that looks to be fine. There's a mark around the bottom of it there, but I think that's just flux from when this was assembled. The whole board is caked in it. That capacitor there is maybe ever so slightly bulged. No, I'm not sure, to be honest, actually. And I don't see any evidence of anything on the board here having any damage on it. So maybe I am misremembering this. But I could have swore something on here went bang. We're going to be fitting a new cap kit to the power supply anyway, just because they are known to give problems, these things. So we're just going to do that as a matter of course. I wasn't going to bother recapping the board itself because they don't really need it. Much like the A500, the caps on these are fine. So putting aside the mystery smoke for the minute, we've got our RAM here, our CPU. That looks like sound stuff over there. That Yamaha chip, that's the sound generator on this thing, isn't it? That's our ROMs, just the 2 ROM chips in it at the minute. We can fit different ROMs in there to upgrade the TOS on this. Something I might consider in the future. Not too worried about it today though. There is our 512K of RAM, which is what makes this a 520. But there is space there for the second bank, which would bring this up to a 1040. And I do have a full set of spare RAM chips. So that is something I might consider doing. What I need to check though is, could I fit sockets for that? Would the RAM fit underneath that CPU if I was to put it in sockets? Yeah, I think it might just fit. Although I'm not sure if they were in sockets. Might they get too close to the bottom of the power supply? Could that possibly cause heat issues in the RAM ICs? Reduce the longevity of them? I might go and ask a few ATARI people I know what the best thing to do there is. But I think what we'll start with is a full recap of this. I got this replacement cap kit from the Exos shop, but it doesn't only contain capacitors. We have a new rectifier, a new output diode, and a couple of resistors to change as well. All of this should not only get this up and running again, but should also improve the audio, video, and overall stability of this system. So no time like the present. Let's start on the primary side, I suppose. We'll get that big cap out first of all. And yes, I'm just going to walk these out. And there's that one released. The bottom of that does look a little bit wet, although I'm not sure if it's just residue perhaps from when it was originally installed. As I say, the whole thing is caked in flux. Not sure though. It's for the bin anyway, as it's going to be replaced with this one. One down, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go. 6. Now we're not necessarily replacing like for like here with this kit. This one, for example, just came out is 2200 microfarad 10 volt, and we are to replace all of these with these 4700 microfarad and 16 volt. Exos has done a lot of work in producing these kits, a lot of bench testing, and these modifications should go some way to alleviate ripple noise, which is what's helping to improve the audio, video and the stability. I will link down to his site in which he has a write-up going over all the various modifications that he recommends for the various different ATARI power supplies. And before I forget what I have or haven't done, put a little tick on those two. Right, this little capacitor here, this wasn't included in the kit. So I suppose going by that, it probably doesn't need to be replaced. But if we're replacing all the rest of them, to my mind, we probably should change it out. What is it? It is 50 volt 1 microfarad. I do have plenty of those. Doesn't really look any different than any of the other ones we've removed. Although the source of the smoke might have been from this one. The bottom of this one is bulged and it's kind of crusty looking. So this one might have let go from the underside. Not sure though, because I thought these sort of cans were meant to let go from the top side. That's why it has that crimp pattern in it there. That's where it's supposed to vent if it needs to. But as I said, I have plenty of those wee caps, so let's just change it anyway. Now the other things that we need to replace as well, we have the bridge rectifier. Replacing that component. This is rated at 2 amps, this one is rated at 10 amps. So just giving us a bit more headroom, I suppose, for all those lovely modifications that we're going to be adding to our ATARI. In fact, you know what, it'd be easier to do with this. I'm just going to cut the old one off. And then we can just desolder those legs one at a time. It should just fall out of the board there. Or maybe not. This is just a single-sided board. So I've pushed them through as far as I can and just wiggling them there will crack them off from that solder that's left, allowing me to pull the leg through. Don't ever try and do that on a double-sided board. And I will have to refer to the image on the exhaust guide for this to see how this needs to be installed, because I need to bend the legs to suit. Now it does say that these holes might need to be drilled out, and you know what? I think they do. Let me get the Dremel. I'm going to go down through from this side because I want to get a nice clean cut through the copper traces here. Dremel is going as slowly as it will. And we're not really applying any pressure, just letting the drill cut its way through there. Hopefully this will fit down through there now. Oh no, we have damaged that pad ever so slightly there, just when that came through, just when that leg came through. So let's just make off these other three. Then for this one, I'll just scratch away the solder mask, just here. And we'll just bend that leg down. And that should now be fine. Need to replace this. We'll take that clip off the top of it. That went flying. Oh, that's loose. Look at that. And sure enough, cracked solder joint. Yep, all three of them there. So I wonder if that in itself would have caused any smoke to escape. If that was perhaps arcing in there, could that have caused any problems? And then last but not least, the two resistors to replace. That positions R201 and R202. That is those two there. Replacing these improves the peak current output of this thing, as apparently in its stock configuration you can get a dim video output when the floppy drive is being accessed. Although one thing we do need to do is double check the 5V output after doing this, as apparently it can mess that up a bit. We can adjust that though at that trim pot. So at position R201 we fit a new 1.2K, and at position R202 we fit a new 1K. Which one's which? Gonna make myself look like an idiot here, but I'm pretty sure that this one is the 1K. And I was right. Maybe I should do the lottery this week. So one PSU refurb complete. I'll give it a quick going over with a few cotton buds. Probably should have given it a bit of a clean beforehand, I suppose. Although I'm not going to get too precious about it because, as I say, it is absolutely caked in flux from the factory anyway. And to get all that off, I'd be here for hours. So quick clean up and then we can start testing. So let's test it. I do need to put load on the power supply. The only thing that I have to load it with is the motherboard, so we're sort of going for broke here. With that in mind, I've connected up the video cable as well, and I've got the multimeter out just so that we can quickly check that 5V level, just in case it is potentially too high. I don't want to risk damaging anything on here. Now, I don't think it will boost the 5V level to anything dangerous. That certainly isn't mentioned in the Exos write-up, but screwdriver here just to turn it back down a bit on that trim pot should we need to. So let's see what happens. ATARI starting, we have a grey screen and ATARI has booted, so that is fantastic. What is our voltage level? I'll just test it over this side of the board on this 7.4 series chip. 5.1, I think we could turn that down just a little bit. So let me see if I can hold those probes in there. And I'm not sure which way we need to turn this, but oh, it's going the wrong way. Jesus, that's really going the wrong way. Oh, there we go. There we are. I think that's close enough. 4.97. I'm happy enough with that. Looking at it like this, you want to turn it anti-clockwise to turn it down. Don't do what I did, turn it the wrong way and turn it up. But that does seem to be one working ATARI. I think the next thing we should do is turn our attention to the floppy drive. It's an Epson SMD 380, but oh my goodness, mangled, doesn't quite cover it. This whole front plastic assembly here is badly broken, and it looks like the innards of the drive mechanism just under there are all twisted up. So first thing I think we should do is get this cover off. Is it just that one screw? Yeah, I think so. Well, there's that off. And we're in. What in the name of... what is this? Is that part of the drive mechanism? I wouldn't have thought so. Although I've never been inside one of these before. Put that to the side for now. This front bar running across it here, that looks as if it's bent. And yeah, I mean, it still seems to load at disk okay, so maybe that is meant to be bent. I wouldn't have thought so though. You see what I mean? It's a bit crooked looking. Nah, that's not right. That's probably what this thing's about, or what it was about. That no doubt used to keep tension on that. Let me think how this is meant to work. Alright, so it's supposed to return to that position Then when you put in the disc, that arm comes up, opening the door of that. Without something keeping tension on that though, to keep it open, it's sort of just flopping in the breeze there. And if that was, say, sitting in that position, that's going to stop this, isn't it? Yeah, that is stopping the disc from going in. There's an old PC drive, for example, and you can see this spring here, which presumably is similar to what that used to look like. And this one, it's holding that mechanism up, which is doing the same thing. And there's that arm there, which is opening the door of the disc. Right, I found this picture of one that was previously for sale on eBay. That tells us a couple of things. Firstly, that is not meant to be bent, so we'll have to have a go at straightening that. But also, it shows a spring coming off that post there, up and around this post, and then across and under that one. I don't think we have much hope of trying to reuse this, but could we use the one that is in this drive? I may need to cut that bit off that. Just that returning leg on it there. I'm just going to remove that. And yeah, in fact I need to cut another bit off it. But let's just see first of all if this will work. Yeah, it loads the disc okay. Can I eject it? Yeah, that's working fine. I'm happy at that. The drive is quite dusty though. So I think what we'll do actually is a full tear down on it. Give everything a good clean and lubricate those rails. Comes apart fairly easy actually. That bit just lifts off after you remove that. But to get the PCBs out, it's just 4 screws. Go through into this plastic section. The board just drops off so long as you disconnect the ribbons. That's it really. There are a couple of electrolytics on this, but I'm not going to bother changing them. I don't have suitable replacements in stock. That's a 10 microfarad, that's a 56 microfarad, with an odd ball number there. And they're quite small, low profile things as well. We'll test it. If it works fine, we'll just leave well enough alone. Or if these are known to be a failure point in this disk drive, like they are in, you know, many other disk drives, let me know and I can always come back and replace them again. But for now, it's just going to be a bit of a clean. Just want to get the dust out of it. And it's just going to be cotton buds to do that. I'll give the heads a clean with a bit of IPA and a cotton bud. And we'll just lubricate this reel here with a bit of silicone grease. It's quite an interesting mechanism actually. I've never seen one like this before. The stepper motor on it there has a little gear on the end of it. And it's sitting in this section here, this sort of slot here, and that bit of metal. There's loads of little teeth in it, and it's that which is just driving this back and forward. I suppose it wouldn't do any harm to try and lubricate that a bit as well. You see how that works there. Most of the other ones which you see, like in this drive from which we stole that spring, just have this worm gear, and it's that which controls the position of the heads. As I say, I've never seen one like that before, although I haven't worked on too many ATARIs before. As for this bit, well, let's give it a go, try and bend it straight again. And yeah, I think that's looking okay at that. It bends very easily, but in doing so, it has bent a few other bits of this. I think that's not looking too bad there now, although this bit, it has like a curvature to it. I'm not sure if it's meant to. Maybe it is meant to actually, just so that when it's moving, you know, back and forward like that, it can allow this to move without it getting caught. Hopefully that's everything I need to do to the floppy drive, so I'll just reassemble it and then we can test that as well. All back together, and I have printed a new cover for the front of it. Although it's not a great fit, just found the files for this on Thingiverse. But it sort of feels like this slot in it wants to be 1 or 2 millimeters lower. Because at the minute this sort of has to go in at that sort of downward angle to get it in, and you need to really get in there and push the disc home. It's definitely getting caught on something. It'll do for now though, it'll do for testing. For software, I am unfortunately severely limited. I actually only own one Atari ST game, and that is Microprose Golf. Yeah, I know golf games, sports games in general are not favoured upon, but I love this game. Played an awful lot of this on my Amiga back in the day, and I have since purchased a copy of this for every system that it was released on. In fact, I want to try and get every version of this game for every system that it was released on. I've got all the Amiga ones, and I think I've got 2 different versions of it for the PC. I only got this one for the Atari though. But anyway, I've never used this, but it is complete. 3 discs. There's the program discs. Even has the scorecards and course layouts and all in there. Well, let's get this into our drive. And let's see what it does. Right, first of all, what is that horrendous noise? And the Atari has crashed. Okay, 2 things there. Firstly, there was a horrendous noise out of the speakers, but there was equally a horrendous noise out of this. And yeah, this disc actually might... oh no. This disc might just be past it. I can see a track has been wore into the disc surface there. And the disc surface itself, yeah, it actually looks a bit stained. Probably should have checked that before just sticking it in the drive. That disc might just be done. It is nice to collect this old software, but most of the time it's just to get the box. And in fact, it has left remnants of itself on the heads in there. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but that bottom head has a black mark on the left hand side of it now. That is residue coming off the disc. And before I try sticking any other discs in there, yeah, I need to clean that. That's looking a lot better now. So I think what we'll do is take an old Amiga demo disc and we'll just see if we can even format this from within GEM. Oh, but to do that, I'm obviously going to need to hook up the keyboard at least. So hold on a second. I need to also figure out what that horrendous noise is. Power up. And that weird noise is gone. How would hooking up the keyboard stop it making that weird noise? Right, let's stick a disc in. And we can use the keyboard as a mouse. We hold down alternate, and we can use the arrow keys to move it about. There's that noise again. So it makes a noise every time you press a key. Anyway, what we'll do is select floppy disk A, and we'll go to the file menu and format. Double-sided, drive A, go. And yeah, it does not like that. Let me just grab another disc. Just on the off chance, because you never know. Might just be a bad one. Alright, there's another one there. Just another old demo disc. Let's try this again. No, and it doesn't like that either. Give it another clean. Maybe I missed something. Let's just see if that helps. Oh, and went and asked a question about that weird noise. That is perfectly normal on the ST if you don't have a keyboard connected. It just thinks it's got a stuck key, and that's why it's constantly making that key press sound. So we'll try another disc as well. Just same thing again. Floppy drive A. format. And that is working. It is formatting the disk, so presumably it was just the heads were still dirty, or maybe those other couple of disks were bad. There we are, format complete. 726,016 bytes free. What's that, probably about 700k or so. So just one last thing to do before we close all this up. Before I put this back together, I want to install some more RAM. 512 in here at the minute, but you can see ATARI left us space to double that to take it to the 1 megabyte, essentially turning this machine into a 1040 ST. I have one full set of DRAMs. They will go in there along with some decoupling caps, and the only other thing we need are 3 68 ohm resistors to go in those positions. Those enable the additional RAS and CAS lines required for this additional RAM. Now, just looking to see how people have done this in the past. Most people fit sockets, and it seems most people use 100 nanofarad decoupling caps. All the existing ones on this are 220 nanofarad, so I'm using all 220s. Yes, those have been recovered as well off another motherboard, but they're fine, nothing wrong with them. Same as those chips. I have tested all of those using this thing. They are all fine. And so this might be a little controversial, but I'm not going to fit sockets. I'm just going to solder all this direct to the board. Those ICs, they're from 1993. They're 32 years old. They're still working fine. They're still testing fine. I think it's fairly safe to say they will be fine for the foreseeable. And I suppose if we do ever encounter any RAM problems, well, at least I've got all the equipment I need to desolder them. These were all recovered actually off an Amiga 500 motherboard, the Rev 5 board. I've never seen faulty RAM on one of those, so yeah, I don't really see the need to fit sockets here. Just going to do 2 pins in opposite corners on each chip, and then I'll push on each one of them from behind and just reflow that, just to make sure that they are flush to the board. All the RAM and caps are done. Just these 3 resistors. Right, last thing we need to do is take this keyboard apart, because I did try a mouse in these and it's not working. So I'm hoping what we'll find is a couple of cracked solder joints just in there. But also the floppy drive access LED, it's broken. So we need to replace that. Plus it all needs a bit of a clean. Well, sure enough, quite a few broken solder joints on both the DB9 ports. And that is not flowing very well. A bit of flux will soon help it though. Good as new. That's just that LED. And I think that will be us done with this machine. How about we use a blue LED? Yeah, I know it's not original, but blue LEDs are nice to look at, aren't they? I think that's about the right height there. Maybe I should have put that bit of heat shrink back on there to stop those legs ever potentially shorting each other out. Although the legs of that LED are quite thick compared to what came off it, so yeah, I think I'll be alright. But you know what? I think we should do this one as well. And then they're both the same. They'll both be blue. They'll both be equally as annoying for people. So last job is just give everything a bit of a clean and then reassembly. But this video is long enough, so you don't really need to see me doing all that. I'll be back when it's done. Or hold on a second. What's that? That looks like the leg of a component that has stuck to the solder there at that point, which is a couple of resistors. So I would assume that has been there from the factory, but it's definitely not meant to be there. So we'll just get rid of that. And now all that's left to do is clean it. Well, that's more or less everything that I wanted to do today. We've sorted the power supply, sorted the disk drive, added some additional memory, fixed the DB9 ports on the keyboard, and fixed those LEDs. So one clean bill of health for our 520 ST, or should I call it now a 1040 ST. Speaking of which, is there anywhere I could get a replacement badge? And I only say that because this one is a little scratched up. Although I'm not too precious about it. The case obviously has had some abuse in its past life. There's a few little nicks in this grill at the back. And obviously where that floppy drive cover was, that was pretty badly mangled, wasn't it? There it is there. That is now another printed one that does fit slightly better. Does allow discs to go in and out a bit easier. Although if anyone by chance had one of these and would be willing to part with it, well, please let me know, because I think it might just look better to have that original plastic part on the side rather than that black bit. I have tested the additional RAM that we installed. I was able to run a memory test from a GoTech, and yeah, it tests fine. Left it going for about half an hour or so. No errors, no issues, and hopefully it remains as such since I didn't fit those sockets. Speaking of GoTechs though, we do need a means of running software on this thing. Yeah, okay, the disk drive works, but I only have that one game on disk, which doesn't work. So we do need another solution. I have something coming to plug into the hard drive port on the back, but what I might look at doing is installing this permanently as well. Although I wouldn't want to remove the disk drive. I want to try and have both in the machine. Maybe as drive A and drive B. I'll have a switch somewhere to change between them. Probably won't use the disk drive much, the floppy disk drive, but I do like to have them in all my retro machines. I don't want to go too crazy with this machine in terms of modifications. You can fit accelerators, an RGB to HDMI. You can even fit more RAM. You can take it up to 4 megabytes, I think. But I'm not sure I want to do that to this machine. I think I'm just going to keep this one as it is, other than adding the likes of the GoTech just for handiness. But let me know what you think. Is there anything you would have done any differently today? Or is there anything else you would like to see me do to this? As for this video though, all that remains to say is thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Why not hit subscribe if you haven't done so already? Still a few things left to do here on CRG, and I'll see you next time.